you need to be spending on that. So the first thing I want to go over, because I've had a lot of questions about it, is essentially why your design has looked different. And so I just want to explain how Roxen kind of flips the design logic that we've been using on its head. It just makes it a little bit backwards for us. I just thought some visuals would help explain that a little bit better. So let me just go through that quick. Don't worry, I don't have like a big long PowerPoint or anything. I just, so essentially when we were designing stuff in InDesign, we'd place the photo and then figure out how to work the text around it. If I was designing a story, I would have the story coded up, but I would always place the photo first before I made any adjustments or changes to the story. That would be the center of how I decided how to use the space. Like this one I initially thought was going to be 6 columns, but then because this duck photo was deeper, it needed to be at 5 for us to be able to have story under it. Stuff like that. The photo was the center of the design work, and then I made the text work around it. And that's the way that we've been working for, a few decades now, is that the photo was the center of things for us. And with Roxen, it interprets the data differently. So, sorry, I'm trying to click on the shared version of it instead of the actual one. So when I place a story in Roxen, it says this is the size of the box. So I'm going to make sure the text gets in the box, and then whatever space is left, I'm just going to fill with this photo. Even if that means I'm making the photo really tiny or I'm blowing it up giant. As you can see in this one, it cut out half of one duck and mostly cut off the other duck because it said, well, that's the size you made the box. So that's what I'm going to do. And if I make the box smaller, then it's like, that's cool. We can have a small box. But in order to make the box smaller, it sacrifices a lot of the photo. It prioritizes the text at the expense of the photo. And so I am working with my team on seeing the photo and then figuring out how to adjust, because our templates, it's kind of wonky how you have to adjust it sometimes. And some of them we will have to open in InDesign. But it's just a very different way of thinking for the team, because they're used to, I place this photo and then I put the text around it. And Roxen goes, I place this text and part of the photo. So we'll just have to flip how we're thinking of design around. And, when we're picking what templates to put on your page and stuff too, we have to be keeping that in mind instead of us thinking, oh, the photo is going to do that. So, the text can do that. It works the other way around. It just adds a layer of difficulty. And just, whenever you have to change your mindset like that, it's not the fastest change ever, always. So just wanted you all to be able to see that. And that is why some of you have asked me about your photo crops, and it's because of the way that the templates are set up like that. Again, you should not be having crops where, it's a sports photo and they cropped out the baseball or things like that. And if you're seeing that, again, let the hub managers know so that we can address that individually with designers. I think looking through papers, and I hope that you all feel the same, that, we have had a lot fewer issues with that than we did in the first week or so. As people are getting used to things, I'm not seeing that so much. I'm seeing more photos that are cropped more than what we would have done normally, but not where we're cropping out the important pieces of the photo. Another question I got has to do with the layouts. Whereas before we would do 5 and 6 column stories on the same page, so we didn't have, long gutters open all the way down, things like that. We do not right now have the ability to do that in Roxen. That's something we're working on, but it'll be down the line. It'll be at least August before we have anything like that figured out. So for right now, we are just doing 6. That does mean, as we've talked, I think we've talked to most of you this affected already, that, a lot of you had a 5 column opinion page layout, and we had to make some adjustments to that. and change it to a 6. And so once we get the ability to do 5 columns back, then we'll talk with you and see if you like the new 6 better. If you want to go back to 5, we can do whichever you prefer. We've also had a few issues with modulus content, which I think we have worked out now. We had the way modulus content flows into Roxen, but they had to manually put it in there, and they weren't remembering all of the things all of the time. And my team members were not double checking the way that they were supposed to. For example, for Park Rapids, one day the paid obituaries went in, so those ran in the paper, but the death notices are a separate thing that modulus didn't drop in. And so the designer saw the paids and thought, oh, okay, everything's in, placed those on the page, but 3 death notices were missed because we didn't have that file. Modulus has changed their process, so we shouldn't have an issue getting things anymore. And I've also worked with the team on how they're double checking the modulus spreadsheet to check the numbers, both when they're doing the page and when they're proofing the page. The other question I've gotten a lot has to do with column SIGs. Some of you noticed that we haven't had all of your column SIGs. Like we talked about earlier, we're doing column SIGs slightly differently. You know, not everyone who writes a column will get one. It's people who work for the company, our regular contributors, and then elected officials. If somebody in that category has a column and we're not running it with the SIG, please email the hub managers. We have thousands of column SIGs in InDesign from before. And so we are working on making Roxen versions for everyone. But honestly, we just can't remember who all runs and all the papers and which ones are regular and which ones aren't. So just let us know if we missed somebody. We're working on it, and we can get it in there pretty quick once you tell us. So the kicker field in Brightspot, you've all probably seen that now. The kicker is what we used to call either a label head or a standing head. So, you know, if you've got boys basketball, you can put that in that kicker field. Pequot Lake City Council, you know, all those kinds of things. So you can just put them in there yourself. That just makes it faster. It drops into Roxen. You guys were putting, you know, in the notes field, like add boys basketball label. Now you can just put boys basketball up there in the first place. It's not going to get missed because it's already there. It's just going to make things easier for us. This subhead was also added as well. So if you got what you want the subhead to be, you can fill that in as well. Yep. All right. So when you go into your print options here, you know, it has the slug, same as before. And now it has this kicker field, the headline, and the subhead. So you can just fill all of those out in the print options as you're putting your slug and the byline and stuff in there, you know, or I say you, but, you know, hopefully your reporters do it so you don't have to. Kit says, if we don't use kicker fields for shared FNS content, but it comes with a kicker, preferred method to tell design. If you know that it has a kicker that you don't want, just put that on the notes in the print options and on your budget. If you don't know until you see the page, then just let your designer know in Slack. Yes. Yep. Everything's still outputting to Google. We're just not grabbing stories from Google now.
Wait, what was the last question about Google?
Oh, Kit asked if the stories are still outputting to Google. So like you could check that there was a kicker there. And yes, you can do that.
Now, I know it's come up, Alicia, that, you know, use Brightspot whenever possible, but we still have things that are only Google. So, I mean, that's still okay, right?
Yep. Yeah. We think we might have found something this weekend that'll work. So we are, we're going to look into that and see if it is. We might have a better option. But for now, yeah, if it doesn't go into Brightspot, if you're not posting it on the web, put it in a Google Doc and link it for us. Also, if you have something that goes on the web, but then you edit the text for like time references or you trim it, you know, like opinion columns that you prefer to trim yourself, things like that, link the Brightspot link so that we can output it and it will have all the, you know, photos, byline, all of that information in it. And then also link the Google Doc you edited and note for the designer that they should just replace the text with the Google Doc text.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Yes. I also have had some questions about if you guys are going to have to be on call all the time the way that you were before the pod. I know that you all have had more questions than normal lately. The plan is not to have you be on call all the time. Right now, we, you know, some of the designers before were not able to make decisions like to rewrite a headline or, you know, things like that they needed to check. And so they are getting used to being empowered to do that. And in talking through that with them, I've just told them if they're not sure, if they're worried, that they should just check with you, because I'd rather have them annoy you than do it wrong. And, you know, over time, that's going to lessen. I realize that you don't want to spend your summer evenings answering questions in Slack, but it is going to be that way for a little bit. And we're working on improving all of our training so that you're getting less of those questions, helping people feel comfortable, making sure that they have the training they need in, you know, rewriting headlines, things like that. But, you know, in the interim, it is just going to be more questions. Again, I know that's not ideal, but I would, you know, again, I'd rather bug you than have stuff wrong and have the readers bug you. So, if you're having some kind of repeated issues, I can't see if Annalise is here, but Bemidji has like a day in history that goes on the bottom of their opinion page. And for their first few issues, it wasn't formatted right. So Annalise and I talked and went over like exactly how to put that note on her opinion page for the designer. So they just told them like, use this template and do this. So that was easier for designers to understand. If you're experiencing any kind of repeated issues like that, just, you know, send an email to hub managers and we can help you with those notes, and we can help follow up with, you know, any specific designers who are repeatedly doing that wrong or not doing it according to your notes. It's just, you know, letting us know what's going on. So that's what I had on my list of some of the questions that I've gotten several times. What other questions do you all have? The web-only text modules Kit asked about, they are supposed to, you know, we're working on that for right now. They're going to be in there, and I'm working with my team members that they are supposed to delete those out every time. I don't have a great long-term solution for that right now. Michelle, do you have any update on that for right now?
If it's a rich text module.
Yep.
So rich text module, some of the data is supposed to be in print and some isn't. And in Brightspot, they're the exact same thing. So at this point in time, if you're using the rich text module, it's going to show up in Roxen. So somebody will have to manage the content.
Katie asked if galleries within stories work with Roxen, or will we still have to link those photos individually? If there's a bunch of if there's a bunch of photos linked to the story in Brightspot, they will all drop into Roxen. And we've now added, so we have a template that we can place, you know, 10 photos on a page and rewrite stuff for that.
Alicia, I do want to clarify. I'm asking specifically about, like, we have an option in Brightspot that is a gallery. It's not just the individual photos. And that does not kick out to the Google file. So we've had to link those individually if we're using a gallery online.
Okay.
I have to link those individually for the pod or the designer. So
Yeah.
do you know if those read in?
Yes, all galleries read in.
Awesome.
And all photos that are embedded inside of modules. So like if you do a rich text module and you put an image inside of it, that also transfers to Roxen.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I think it gets like 9 by default. I haven't seen anything larger than 9 photos in a story. But if there is more than 9, we can certainly let us know and we can test it out. I will though say if it's a story that doesn't go into Brightspot and we use Google Drive for it, then that process hasn't changed. You'll still have to link them all manually.
Can I just ask a clarifying question on this? Because I know that people use galleries in different ways. There's people who create articles and then have like the gallery format, and they just. But I presume, Katie, what you're saying is like you're taking a story in Brightspot and you're placing a gallery basically as a module into that story. And Michelle, you're saying that that pulls through even though we have other modules that do not pull through?
Yep, the gallery module pulls into Roxen. Yep.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Question, just to clarify then, now I'm confused, but does that mean that if you put in 8 photos in a basketball game, is Roxen going to think that all 8 need to go?
Roxen will see all 8 of them, but will only place the number of photos based on your instructions.
Got it.
And the template that we choose. So we've built templates for a 1 photo. We've built templates for a 2 photo. We've built templates for whatever Alicia says are needed. So we haven't built like a 7 photo story template. Yep.
Because yeah, the welcome home from Iraq to our local National Guard is 10 photos, absolutely, but not the local basketball game last night. So okay, got it.
Yep. Yeah. And if you have a story that has a bunch of photos and you want to specify, on your budget line for designers, just use 2 or, as many as possible, or, whatever your preference is there, you can definitely do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Jeff's wondering about headline counts and how headlines fit generally. Also how multi-deck headlines sometimes break unevenly. Yeah, we have tools in Roxen to adjust the headlines to a degree. And when we are, looking at headlines in Roxen, we can see what the count is. The headline counts are pretty similar to what they were in the old fonts. So if you look at your old skeletons, the counts for headlines will be really similar to that. On the multi-deck headlines, that's a training issue that we're working in because Roxen can't tell what's supposed to go with what. It just puts it in. And, we should be changing the size to fill out the lines or, writing the headline to fill out lines, making sure that we don't have bad breaks. That's a training issue. That's again, if you're seeing that as a problem, you can let us know and we'll work with specific people. If there's specific people you're seeing that issue with. Matt Erickson will inch word counts. Sorry, Michelle.
Sorry about that, Alicia. I have noticed when people are sending stories over, if you had that Brightspot print options up on your screen, Alicia, you want to pop it back up. Some people are putting like the headline and then a couple of slashes and then a bunch of notes and then some more slashes. Well, every time you do that, somebody has to edit that because that is the full headline that gets placed on the page, right? So really, the headline should be the headline. If you want additional notes or if you want additional suggestions, put them in the notes field. But that print headline, if you set it to the way you want it, then it's, nobody touches it. And that is the most efficient way to do it. Some people are putting kicker information in that headline field too. And now that we've added this kicker, let's make sure we separate that. What else have you seen, Alicia, that you want to make notes of?
That, and then, we are still seeing a lot of headlines that are pretty large. I'm not calling out Pat. This one just happens to be the one I opened. It's 76 characters. That's difficult for a headline, So just keeping an eye on that, reminding your team about that, we're going to have to rewrite that or make it really tiny and strange. Corey?
So, traditionally what I'm doing when it's my day for pages and I'm going in on the sked and actually writing the suggested heads all over. You've probably seen that, Alicia.
Yep.
So is that still the best way to do it, or is that not going to work as well now that we're with Roxen?
You can certainly still do that.
Mhm.
You know, if it's your own local story, just be filling this in here with what it should be. And then if it's, you know, a shared story that you have a specific headline for your rail or something like that, yeah, you can definitely still put that on your budget and we can adjust that.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Matt Erickson, will inch word counts be available per page at some point? That is something that, yes, we have in our list of things that we would like to see in Roxen. Again, we're probably looking at August before we're going to have any of that done, but it is absolutely on the list.
It's on the list to start reviewing in August. That doesn't mean we know what their roadmap is for that, Alicia. Yeah.
August at the earliest, then yeah. Sorry, I'm not making any promises on Roxen getting anything done in a specific timeline. I'm not. I'm going to apply for my passport soon so that, you know, I can fly to Sweden and straighten them out if it becomes necessary. But as of right now, it would be difficult for me to get back home if I did it. So, Kit said it would be nice if we had toggle button for rich text modules, like an export or a don't export. That would be nice.
That's a good suggestion. I'll write that down.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff is wondering if we have a proofreader still reviewing finished pages. We do. It is harder to make changes to pages with Roxen because the way Roxen is set up, they were assuming that everything was already perfect before it got to us, which us being human beings, it's not always. So we do have a proofreader still looking at everything. You know, it's a different person depending on obviously what day. It's, you know, Mary Beamish several days of the week, Steph Selensky several nights of the week are people who are quite experienced at copy editing. There's just also a little bit of a limit to how easy things are to change. So based on deadline, some smaller things we've had to let go.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not talking about like line editing copy, which it should come to you perfect, but more or less some of the things that are kind of introduced by Roxen, like a bad headline break or a headline that doesn't run the whole width of the column, or a bad photo crop, or things like that. That's kind of what I'm more interested in.
Yeah, we're checking that, and I've noticed that like ampersands and captions are coming across with some extra text and things like that. So, Nancy said, can designers put their names at the top of our budget so we know who to contact or who to expect to contact us? Yes, they absolutely should be doing that. I will issue them a reminder. We also, as we talked about, I have kind of a schedule essentially set up for, you know, on Mondays, this person always does this. On Tuesdays, this person always does this. So you will have a feeling for who's going to be doing your stuff eventually. So, you know, if somebody's gone, then it'll be different. But otherwise, you'll know that, you know, on Wednesday, Angela handles this. On Thursday, we've got Paula, you know, to that. Sydney, is there a better way designers can get a hold of us later at night for issues? There's an @here message for Rochester last night at 10:30, but I don't think anyone's Slack went off to answer that. That, again, that's a training issue that my team shouldn't just be at hearing at 10:30 at night and expect that one of you is there looking. You know, they should be directing that to whoever your budget says is on duty, or if it doesn't say, you know, like for Rochester, it should just be Sydney and Jeff will tag both of you, and then whichever one of you answers. Yeah, it shouldn't be an @here tag. It should be a direct tag so that, you know, if you have alerts on your phone or something, it will ping you. The DNT has been using container modules that have 2 lines of HTML and rich text in between for bold quotes and breakout boxes. Do those spit out into Roxen? I know for sure, certainly, Katie, that we've gotten pull quotes from your stories. I'm not 100% sure on breakout boxes. If you want to send me a link to one, or sorry, Michelle has an answer.
Yeah, if you send us a link to one, we'd like to take a look at it. Typically, anything that's HTML gets removed from Roxen because it can't read what it is or translate it into standard text. So that's interesting. because pull quotes are a different type of a style inside of the body text in Brightspot, and those are coming across just fine. So the only question would be is if you're intermixing HTML and rich text in the same module. I'd be interested to see how that translates. I can't answer that one.
So sometimes we use the pull quotes that are in Brightspot, and other times we make our own, and the HTML creates the blue line. So if there's blue lines, we're creating that container module, and we do the same thing for some of our pull quotes, not all of them, and then breakout boxes. I can send you an example.
Yeah, send me an example, but just knowing the way the interface was written, I can pretty much say if it was created using HTML, we're not sending it over to Roxen. And it's not translating as a pull quote type either, where you can style it differently. So that's my first thought, but please give me a sample and we'll take a look.
Okay, thanks, Michelle.
All right, other questions?
Alicia, are you finding that Roxen is making work more efficient?
Once people get used to it, it is, yep. It's quite a steep learning curve, you know, in large part because, you know, like I said, you have to completely redo your brain on how you think about things. But once people are familiar with it, they are able to do pages quicker. So yeah, I'm hopeful that it does what it's supposed to do because my team members who are leaving this week. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Kit, is there a way for us to mark photos as don't crop for Roxen to stop messing with them? We don't have a don't crop in Roxen, but you can note on your budget that the designer needs to make sure that that photo doesn't crop. If there's something that for some reason really can't be, that's fine. We can do that. For example, you know, like Matt, the other day we had some historical photos from the 57 tornado. You know, we probably don't want to crop history. So that would be something that like I would mark. Kit asked if we can set that for Wilmer's default. Honestly, no, because the way that the system works, we need to be able to crop some things. Again, I'm working with the team to try to make sure that we are never cropping out the, you know, important meat of the photo, that the crop doesn't in any way change the context of the photo, anything like that. But we can't just not crop anything and still make this system work. Nancy says, if you do want a photo cropped, submitted photo that has ceilings, floors, walls, and the people in it are pinheads in the middle, and we want to focus on that. Yeah, you can just note that you want it cropped. I did your pages last week before, and yeah, I just automatically cropped them without your permission because I saw that, and I was like, not that the Pequot Lakes readers probably aren't interested in what the ceilings look like, but yep. Yeah, you can just drop a note for designers to crop in on the people because we do have a crop setting that we can, you know, pick the crop in Roxen to tell it to ignore the ceiling and stuff. Susan says, the problem I see here is it relies on us to make a note on every photo. Shouldn't designers just be empowered to make a good decision on photos? Yes, that's what, you know, how the system is supposed to work, that, you know, my team is looking at every photo as they're getting the story ready to print in your publication. And then as they're placing the templates and adjusting them for size, that they are looking at the photos and making changes to, you know, like in Nancy's case, to crop in, or, you know, in the tornado photo to not crop, to make sure it doesn't get cropped at all. And I know that not everyone is doing that perfectly right now, and that's a training issue, but that's absolutely the way the system is supposed to work. I'm so sorry. Paula?
I know that you have received a lot of feedback, some of it really super detailed, and I'm wondering, out of everything that you have, you know, gotten back from editors, is there anything that you've read that you're like, you know what, this is just part of the new system that we're going to have to deal with? I know the vast majority is a lot of training and just everyone getting used to things and that sort of thing. But is there anything that I hate to put you on the spot, but like that you now know that, nope, this is just how it's going to have to be now?
I think probably the photos is the biggest one that we're just not going to be able to get every millimeter of every photo in, because things are going to be adjusted that way. That's how this system is designed to work. And that's part of how we get efficiencies from this system. You know, again, we're going to work on making sure that we do the best representation of the photo, but it's not going to include every detail of that photo. And I know that you all have to hear from your photographers about their feelings on that. But that's sort of our new normal. Yeah, Michelle?
So we did address photos quite a bit with not only Roxen, but with some of their other clients that are using Roxen. And each client that they've onboarded has made the same kind of comment. And so there's like a suggestion for taking photos that I just wanted to share. Number one is horizontal works best, which I think is, you know, the typical way photos are taken. And one company actually asked their photographers to take a step back and make a wider photo. Now, again, that means on the website, you're going to have, you know, a lot more on there as well. But then when we do crop it in, then you're able to focus on the important information inside that. So, you know, just a suggestion, just something to know that we are addressing this issue, and other clients have resolved it by doing just that, just broadening the scope of your photo.
And then I have comments from Shannon and Kit about pages with solid text and tiny photos. Again, that's kind of a training issue. On a lot of our templates, the photos drop in as 2 columns, and then we have to change them to larger. And some of the team members were just like, okay, it came in as 4 or as at 2. I'm leaving it at 2 instead of adjusting it. You know, again, just because of the shift, the way that Roxen prioritizes the text, then as some designers are trying to change their mindset, it's, you know, Roxen sets up the page to prioritize the text, and then they're like, oh, okay. So again, that's a training issue that I'm having. Shannon, I know you and I spoke about a particular designer that you're seeing that a lot from, and I have a meeting with them later today. You know, if you guys are seeing really any repeated issue from a particular person, please let the hub managers know, because we will work with that person specifically on that training. You know, nobody's going to get like in trouble and have it on their permanent record that they didn't use the photo big enough. But, you know, like I said, there are things with this that are just training issues, things that we have to work with people to make sure that they understand that they're absolutely empowered to do. And so if you're noticing that, you know, I work with this person every Tuesday and Thursday, and I always have this, you know, that's the stuff that we do need to know. We're trying to look over everything and follow up with each individual person. But as you can imagine, the hub managers and I are pretty swamped right now and don't have the free time that we would like to have to be doing all of those quality checks and working with people on all of those pieces. You know, we can't be everywhere at once. Sometimes I have a kid at home. I hear she's nice, so I want to, you know, go see her every couple of weeks. So I have to leave the office. You know, we're working on that, but if you notice something specific, you know, please let me know. Susan says we don't know who does our pages, so if that's something you want us to know, it's going to be noted somewhere. Okay, yeah, the designer should be putting it on the budget. And then again, you know, if that's the person asking you questions in your Slack rooms, then you'll know that too. Yeah, Sydney.
Is there anything extra to know with advanced layouts? We often submit advanced layouts in Rochester, and you know, last week we had the issue that popped up with it just going on the page, just the one entire story. We got that resolved. But is there anything else that we should be noting in those advanced layout notes? And do those get any kind of play in InDesign, or is that also just going straight through Roxen?
So our goal is that every page with like a centerpiece is going to be opened in InDesign. So your A1, your life cover, your sports cover, we'll be placing that using a Roxen template, but then we always want to adjust that template, to make the headline size correct, make sure that the crop on the photos is the one that best serves it, to add space or change up a little bit where the photo is, to add creative things, whatever. And the plan is to continue doing that. And we have been doing that on a lot of Roxen pages. Right now we're opening a lot more inside pages in InDesign than I'd like, partially because people are confused about how to operate different parts of the template. So they're opening in InDesign instead. So we have to work with that. And, partially that we're just still adjusting our templates. But all of your advanced stuff like that, it should still be opened in InDesign so that, your health cover, your business cover, still gets the design attention that it should have as a section front or as your A1. Other questions? Yeah, Shannon.
We had like contact us info boxes as filler on our opinion page, and somehow some old ones were placed on the page, so like it had a dead city council member on it. Do you know how that all came about? And I know I submitted more change requests, but I've not heard anything, so I don't even know where we stand on that.
Okay, yeah. So we had all of those items just like on your opinion page template. So when the designer opened your opinion page, all of your filler items were there. And every time you sent in a change request, we changed it in there. Yeah. With the new setup, those are not on the page when we open it because we need to be able to just design on the page. And so the designer pulled one in that was in our InDesign library, which was obviously a version that had not been updated for a while because when you'd been sending updates, we'd been updating the page version. We are working on creating a new library for designers that includes those updated versions, and that then we'll just update those since we don't have the option of updating that kind of filler on the template anymore. So we will, I believe yours have been fixed and the old ones were deleted out. I'm going to write myself a note to double check.
Thank you.
So.
Hey, Alicia, Tom, Inform Sports.
Hey, Tom.
Just a procedural question. We haven't started yet. So, are we going to have a contact, or is it direct contact with the designer during the evenings?
It's direct contact with the designer now.
Oh, okay. I was just curious because we have, especially, in the summertime, a game's running late, it's rain delayed, a photo fell through, that kind of issue. Mm-hmm. And I know initially when we started the pod, that was kind of the things we wanted to get away from, is bugging the designer 5 times in an hour about what the status of a story, or we need to move this from inside to replace the story. So I'm just curious how that worked. The other issue I had too was, or the other question I've got is about the Google Docs again. Are they able to access the Bright Spot doc for Roxen if we don't publish it? Say, for instance, we put it together and we save it. Would that kick it to the? Would that kick it into Roxen? The reason I'm asking is we sometimes have a lot of stuff like scoreboard stuff, and then we'll have something else later in the evening that we wouldn't necessarily put on the web because it's already there, or it's going to be in a different file, So that was just one.
We're discussing that, Tom. So right now, if the article is published, we can send it to Roxen. And if the article is scheduled to be published into the future, we can push them to Roxen. Anything else we're saying if should be through the Google Drive process at this time, but that's not like locked in stone. We're chatting about it even right now on a really good way to gather content that won't be on the website. Right now, the only way we're doing it is by using the Google Docs that you currently use now. But if there's a better process, we've been talking about it for a while. One might be I'm just going to say it out loud, Alicia, cover your ears and you know it's coming. We might open up Roxen to enter some of that content directly into Roxen, because then it's a one and done. You put it where it needs to go. I mean, why put it somewhere it doesn't need to go? Put it where it needs to go. But that opens up a whole can of worms in our workflow. So we're not going to do that right now, but it is on the table to talk through. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I don't have any problem using the Google Docs still. I'm just worried that we're creating more work on the other end.
Yeah,
If they
we
have to then.
do have to copy and paste from Google Doc into Roxen, which is not ideal because you're doing the work and then somebody else is doing the work. So again, we're trying to find a better solution so the work is just done once.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And one of those might be building
Thank
an integration from Google Docs. If a Google Doc we can hit a button on and push it into Roxen, that would be a good option too. So we have several options to take, but right now we're just going to stick with putting it in Google Doc, and Alicia's team will make sure it's in Roxen.
Yeah. Thank you.
You bet. Yeah, I have to jump out. I got another issue. So Steve's taking notes for me, but thank you everybody for meeting. These are great conversations. I really do appreciate it. And I'm here too. Alicia's your head honcho. I'll route it through her and Steve, but certainly if you need to reach out to me, I'm Michelle Vandal, the project manager here. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.
All right. What other questions? All right. Well, I mean, you all know where to find me. If you have questions, try to have them this week, because starting the middle of next week, I'm taking a break to, I don't know, figure out where I live or something. So I'm going to try not to be on. So, if you've got something for me, please try to get it to me this week. Otherwise, you're probably just going to have to wait a little while. Of course, the hub managers will still be here and they'll be taking care of things and working with people, and, any issues or anything that can come up, they have my full trust. So, but thank you all for your good questions, for the good feedback that you've given me by, your emails and phone calls. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jeff. I feel like I should have a pillow with this embroidered on, or like a throw on my chair, but I can't fix any problems I don't know about. So if you have a problem, you have to tell me if you want it fixed. If you're cool with it just continuing to be an issue and you're not liking the way that something is, you can that's on you. But if you want something corrected or made better or whatever, you have to let me know. And I promise that you're not going to hurt my feelings by letting me know that there's an issue going on that needs to be addressed. That's, my job. If you guys stop telling me there was problems, probably, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. Probably get more reading done. Till somebody found out that's what I was doing with my day. So.
Alicia, I echo Jeff's comments. We sleep better at night knowing that you're the point person and you always take care of stuff when it comes up. So we really appreciate it.
Well, thank you all. Everybody send Steve a note that you're on board with the title change I've requested. I asked to be the Darth Admiral of Publication Services, and Steve and Mary Jo totally shot me down. So let's start a letter writing campaign. You guys tell them I deserve it, okay?
You got our vote, Alicia.
All right. Thank you all very much. We'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ally.